This video is sponsored by WeTransfer. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips for better photography client communication that I learned working with wedding and portrait clients, as well as working with businesses for paid and sponsored content. Before we get into the 5 tips, let's start with the prerequisites. First, you're going to want to have a written record of all the communication that you have with your client. So this includes emails, texts, or written or scanned documents. They can be either physical or virtual as long as you have a way to pull them up and look them up when you need to. I would highly avoid kind of direct messages, as long DM threads can be hard to sift through and reference. For example, in Instagram, you don't really have a way to search for specific words or phrases within your DM threads. So if you're trying to question something a client told you in the past, it's going to be almost impossible to find it. And at the same time, you don't own those platforms, so it's not guaranteed that your messages will be retained throughout the life of a longer client cycle or client project should anything happen to that specific platform. Next, you're going to want to clearly define the scope, deliverables, timeline, and payment structure before working with this client. The best way obviously is contracts, as those are reviewed by both parties and signed, and they're kind of legal documents that kind of put everything in place. But in a pinch, a clearly written email that states all the above can also work. The last prerequisite is to have a personal yet professional tone. So you want to be friendly, you want to be courteous, but at the same time, you don't want to be too casual or scared of setting boundaries and making everything clear, because you don't want to enter this working engagement where you feel like you don't have all the tools at your disposal or that you don't know what you're getting into. So clearly asking for all the details up front that you need to complete the job is important so that both parties are happy at the end. Okay, so now let's get into the 5 tips. The first tip I have for you is to create a workflow. You're going to want to map out all the communication points from the first inquiry all the way to the end of the project. So this could be lead intake, scheduling meetings, scheduling discovery calls and sessions, doing consultations, all the way to kind of like sales and negotiation cycle, pre-production of the shoot and planning, logistics communication, file delivery, getting feedback, all the way to just closing the project and getting a testimonial from your client. If you're first starting out, you probably have no clue where to start or what's needed for all this type of communication structure. So I highly recommend you find a mentor in the field to shadow and learn the ropes from of the specific business that you're in. And if that's not possible at all, be sure to just look on the internet for videos, courses, or kind of communication email template packages and all that good stuff to help you get started. But be sure to tailor these things to your business and personalize them to the type of clients and work that you do as you gain more experience. The second, and I think the most overlooked tip, is to diagnose before describing. And what I mean is to ask questions, ask lots of them, and listen. So when you're starting out, it's exciting to get new inquiries from new clients, and when you're already established, it's exciting to get inquiries from bigger clients or your dream clients, right? But no matter how excited you are, I always recommend slowing down and asking questions before committing to the job. As a professional photographer, it's your job to clearly understand your client's goals, visions, and final desired outcome for the photos, and that only happens when you ask questions. And it doesn't stop at just asking the questions, but it's important to listen, and listen for how their answers translate into your photography, into the timeline, the budget, and how those all line up to your specific photography style, your working timelines, and your overall production costs. If you hear any red flags, be sure to call them out and get clarity. The last thing that you want to do is sign up for a job that you can't do because you either didn't see the signs, or even worse, that you saw the signs and you still proceeded uncomfortably. The best kind of analogy to think about this is a doctor, or say like a surgeon. When a patient goes up to them and describes what they're feeling and asks for certain treatment, the surgeon doesn't just straight away just start cutting up the patient, right? They ask questions, they diagnose to see if the treatment is actually accurate to what that specific patient is looking for. And we need to treat our clients this way, diagnosing their problems, understanding their vision, and then prescribing the right service. Or, you know what, sometimes it's hard, but admitting when you're not the right fit or the right person to execute this job. An ear doctor would not operate on someone's heart, so don't take on clients that aren't kind of the right genre or right fit for you. So the third tip I have is to clarify photography vision and expectations using mood boards and sample photos, and really to not make assumptions. The biggest key here is you want to bridge kind of like the visual and verbal vocabulary gap between your clients and you. So photography is a visual medium, so it's always good to use references, right? When discussing the style, aesthetic of the photography that your client expects at the end of the project. If you already have a set portfolio, one of the best ways that you can do this is to ask them if there's certain photos from your portfolio that stood out or that look similar to what they're looking for, and go even further and ask them why. Ask them to describe what specifically they liked and didn't like about these particular photos. And if you're open to it, or if you haven't gained too much experience yet, you can ask them to provide an outside reference, either from Pinterest or Google search, to give you images or sample images that you can get a feel for what they're looking for. But again, the key here is to ask them to describe what they like specifically, just a sentence or two about these photos in relation to their specific project or their vision. So for example, they may give you a black and white photo, and your first thing is like, okay, they like the tones and the monochrome style of this photo. But perhaps the only part that they like was the pose of the people in the photo, and they actually hate black and white photos. This is a detail that would be missed if you didn't ask them to describe exactly what they like about the photo and clarify those details. And the next tip that I have for you is to reduce friction by minimizing platforms. There's a lot of delays and confusion that happens when you have everything spread out across email and Google Drive, but you want to make sure that your clients have one easy place to find everything and reference everything. So you want to centralize the files and the communication as best you can. The more links and platforms that you throw at them, the more overwhelming it can be and the more time that you can lose throughout the process, and that gets annoying. I use HoneyBook for most of my wedding and portrait clients to streamline all the communication and emails and payment under one platform. But for commercial clients, which is a little bit more tailored experience and it's more collaborative in nature, it doesn't really work that well. It becomes kind of like a mess of sending files, sending notes on Google Docs or Google Drive, and getting comments and feedbacks via email, and that's a little bit too many places for the client to go, and they kind of get lost in it. So lately I've been using WeTransfer to handle all this thanks to their new portals and reviews features. As a beta tester for WeTransfer portals, I now have a single location to submit and transfer files, share documents and notes, and gather feedback on the photos and commission content. Portals basically ensures that all my client files are easily accessible in one central location, right? For creatives like us, it prevents clients from moving them or editing them or losing creative files, because that's pretty annoying, and it's easier for clients to work with, and ultimately it becomes less work for you, right? So it's as simple as creating a portal for the client and giving it a name, and then you kind of create reviews underneath to put all the files that you need them to see. And creating a review is really simple. You just pretty much upload the content. And then you want to specify how the client will interact with it. Will they view it, star their photos, download them? And then you want to give a little prompt to ask what type of feedback that you need. And this pretty much takes you into kind of the feedback loop, which is our next tip, to have a focus feedback loop. And this basically means to have a fast and efficient process with fewer hoops so that you can get back to work and close out the job. The ultimate goal here is to keep focus and keep the client on task to get the actual feedback that you need, ultimately saving everyone time. One of the best parts about this WeTransfer workflow is how reviews saves me time when getting feedback. Specifically, the client doesn't have to download the photos in order to preview assets, and this approval works within the portal itself. And when they submit their review, I get a notification email so that I can check out the feedback, review it, and if I need to take quick action, I can do so. Everything is still in beta phase, but when portals and reviews officially launches, there will actually be a function for clients to comment directly on the specific files. And this is going to be a game changer because it prevents that whole mess where you have to pull up the gallery or folder on one side of your monitor, and then you have to have the emails on the other side, and then maybe another reference document, and then kind of like align all three comments with the visuals and all that stuff. This prevents having to track down the files and the photos that they're actually talking about. At the end of the day, remember, just like in life, it takes work to develop and refine good communication habits. Work on these. Lean into the communication styles that help you stand out as a photographer. People hire the photographer, not the photos themselves, so work on your communication as much as you do on your craft. My name is Reggie Ballesteros. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you loved it, please subscribe to the channel for more Fujifilm or photography videos every single week. And if that's too long for you, be sure to follow me on Instagram at ReggieBPhoto, as I'm posting new tips, tricks, and tutorials every single day. Alright, that's it for me. Remember to get out, go shoot, and I'll catch you all in the next one.